Medicare Part D premiums and cost sharing have shifted for 2025, and many seniors are now facing higher out-of-pocket costs for prescriptions. At the same time, the list of side effects tied to long-term use keeps growing: memory loss, dizziness, digestive problems. And once you begin, stopping can be difficult. We're not telling anyone to stop prescribed medicines. We'll show how certain options can be used safely alongside conventional care, and when to check with your doctor. In this video, you'll learn about 5 senior-safe natural remedies, simple ways to prepare them, and key interactions to watch, starting with why prescription costs are climbing. Why seniors are paying more than ever for pills in 2025. In 2025, seniors are navigating prescription drug costs shaped by changes to Medicare Part D plan designs, shifting premiums, and new benefit rules. For some, standalone drug plan premiums have ticked up, while Medicare Advantage plans with drug coverage follow a different pattern. The Part D redesign now caps annual out-of-pocket spending at $2,000. Welcome news for those needing high-cost medications, but it doesn't erase the steady pressure from copays, deductibles, and the number of prescriptions many older adults are managing. For households on fixed incomes, these costs often compete with everyday essentials. A run to the pharmacy can mean adjusting what goes in the grocery cart that week. Over months, those trade-offs accumulate, not just on paper, but in lived routines, shaping how people plan their days, their meals, and their checkbooks. The weight isn't only financial, it's the emotional strain of knowing each refill comes with a little more tightening elsewhere. Most older adults take multiple prescriptions. Roughly 9 in 10 take at least one, and about 4 in 10 take 5 or more, which raises the chances of side effects and interactions. That many bottles in the medicine cabinet bring practical challenges. Organizing doses, tracking refill schedules, and remembering which pill is for which issue. The more complex the regimen, the more likely it is that side effects will creep in, sometimes leading to yet another prescription to counteract them. Polypharmacy is the clinical term for this stacking of medications, but for many it feels less like a medical term and more like a daily reality. The sequence often begins with a standard visit for a single health concern. Months later, symptoms change, possibly due to the first medication, so another drug is added. Each new script brings a fresh set of possible interactions. The patient information leaflets can run pages long, warning of drowsiness, dizziness, digestive upset, changes in mood, or new aches, each one something to watch for, something to weigh. There's no question that prescription drugs save lives and improve quality of life. But this pattern of adding more and more raises the question of whether other options could sometimes come first, particularly for ongoing, non-emergency conditions where diet, activity, and certain natural supports might provide benefit. In many practice settings here, those alternatives show up only if the patient asks or if a provider takes special interest. Elsewhere, the starting point can look quite different. In some European settings, clinicians commonly try standardized plant-based or lifestyle approaches for mild, chronic complaints before adding more drug classes, and that model has in some studies been associated with lower prescription burden. The remedies used are regulated, documented, and integrated into formal care, not improvised or untested. For older adults in those systems, that can mean fewer prescriptions to track and a lighter load on the body over time. That difference isn't just about money saved. It's about how a person's day is structured. A simple habit, like drinking an herbal blend to ease digestion, can be a pleasant part of the morning instead of another timed pill to swallow between meals. Small changes like these can reduce the complexity of medication schedules, limit the number of interactions a person needs to keep in mind, and sometimes offer gentler options for the body's filtering organs. The financial implications still matter. Even with the new $2,000 annual cap in 2025, each additional prescription can bring its own monitoring costs, blood tests, follow-up visits, dose adjustments. Those extras eat into budgets, especially when combined with rising costs for housing, utilities, and food. For some older adults, the question becomes how to protect their health without sacrificing too much elsewhere. This is why interest is growing in approaches that expand the set of tools beyond prescriptions alone. Lowering medication load where it's safe to do so can mean regaining some independence, cutting down on unwanted side effects, and freeing up both money and mental space. For earlier stage issues, like mild inflammation, occasional insomnia, or everyday digestive discomfort, integrating natural supports alongside or ahead of drug therapy might slow the march toward more complex regimens. In systems that make this integration standard, patients often report feeling more engaged in their care. The focus includes diet, activity, stress, and targeted natural remedies. And while these aren't substitutes for critical medications when they're needed, they give individuals a say in how their plan takes shape. The trade-off is more discussion up front, but that investment can result in a plan that aligns more closely with personal preferences and is easier to stick with over time. Here in the US, too many still land in the same spot, standing at the pharmacy counter doing quick math in their head, deciding what can wait until the next check. The steady climb in drug complexity and cost doesn't have to feel inevitable. Models elsewhere show that a different starting point, when appropriate, can help keep the prescription list shorter and the household budget under less strain. So, given cost and polypharmacy concerns that affect many in this audience, the next step is to explore some of the options that have stood the test of time and now have credible evidence to support their use. They're familiar, often close at hand. And for many, they've been part of daily life long before any pharmacy chain appeared on the corner. The forgotten pharmacy in your kitchen. Long before prescriptions came in plastic vials, many households relied on what was already within arm's reach at mealtime. The kitchen wasn't just a place to prepare food. It quietly served as the family's first line of care. Spices, roots stored in pantries, and fresh sprigs from the windowsill all played a dual role, adding flavor while offering subtle health support. Soups, infusions, and small remedies were simply part of the day, made without ceremony when someone seemed under the weather. One neighbor once told me about her grandmother's morning ritual for what she called creaky joints. She never trained as an herbalist, but she swore by a certain tea she kept in rotation. Into a small enamel pot, she dropped a few crushed garlic cloves, a pinch of dried herbs, and a slice of lemon. The gentle simmer filled the kitchen with a warm, savory aroma. By the time the cup was empty, she promised the stiffness faded enough to get through the morning. It wasn't elaborate, and it didn't need to be. What mattered was that it was dependable and part of her routine. Of the ingredients that have bridged that era to today, garlic is one of the most enduring. Across centuries, people have turned to it to support the immune system, help keep blood flowing smoothly, and generally maintain cardiovascular health. Research has examined many of these uses, linking garlic's effects primarily to compounds such as allicin, which are released when the cloves are crushed or chopped. Studies suggest these compounds may help the body defend against certain microbes and modestly support cardiovascular measures such as cholesterol and vascular function. It is often discussed as a heart-supporting food rather than a cure. For older adults, the form and amount of garlic matter. While younger people might toss half a bulb into a dish without a second thought, seniors need to weigh factors such as digestion and medication use. Higher doses or concentrated garlic supplements can increase bleeding risk when combined with anticoagulants like warfarin or with antiplatelet drugs. This doesn't mean garlic must be avoided entirely. It means being strategic. Culinary amounts, such as a single clove gently cooked in a meal, can offer a balance between benefit and safety. If you're on blood thinners, it's best to confirm with your pharmacist or clinician before making it a daily habit. Preparation can also help avoid common drawbacks. Letting chopped garlic rest for about 10 minutes before cooking allows its beneficial compounds to stabilize. Adding fresh parsley or mint to the same dish can blunt the lingering breath odor without reducing the compounds you want. Light cooking helps tame its raw sharpness, making it easier on the stomach, a point worth noting for those already dealing with digestive sensitivity. Quality matters here. Fresh bulbs should feel firm with dry, intact skin. The fresher the clove, the better the potential compound content. Overcooking can diminish these compounds, so adding garlic toward the end of cooking preserves more of its active elements while still softening it enough for gentler digestion. Traditional practitioner anecdotes sometimes describe garlic intensives, where people consume very large amounts over a short period for specific purposes. While such practices exist in certain traditions, they should not replace medical advice, especially for those with underlying conditions or who take prescription medications. Any high-dose approach should only be undertaken with guidance from a qualified clinician. In practical terms, the safest way for most seniors to get started is modest. One small clove cooked into a meal daily, or a small clove raw if tolerated. Observe how your body responds, and be alert to any unusual bruising or bleeding which could suggest an interaction with medication. Keeping it within culinary amounts makes it easier to integrate without feeling like you've added another treatment to the day. There is something quietly reassuring about a remedy you can incorporate without appending routines or tracking strict schedules. Garlic can fold seamlessly into soups, roasted vegetables, or sautéed greens. In this way, food preparation becomes part of self-care, not an extra chore. The act of cooking itself, chopping, stirring, tasting, becomes a small investment in health that fits naturally into daily life. For past generations, this overlap between meal and medicine was normal. A broth could be both nourishment and comfort. A tea could be something enjoyed in the evening while also offering a subtle health nudge. Reviving that mindset today can help shift some of the balance back towards simple, accessible options. It reinforces the idea that supporting health doesn't always require adding more pills to a schedule already full of them. The goal here is not to replace prescribed medication, but to recognize the value of adding low-risk, well-tolerated foods with potential health benefits to your regular meals. For many, that can mean fewer secondary side effects, a reduced sense of dependency, and again, some added satisfaction at the dinner table. And with garlic, incorporating it mindfully alongside professional guidance can be a safe first step toward re-engaging with this forgotten pharmacy. From here, the possibilities expand beyond any single ingredient. Certain foods and spices can add warmth, aid circulation, and make moving through the day feel a little smoother. Those same qualities can be especially welcome when mornings are cool, hands feel stiff, and joints need a gentler start. Ginger and cinnamon, a gentle warm-up for aging joints. Among the simplest ways to bring comfort to aging joints are two familiar kitchen spices with a long track record of use, ginger and cinnamon. They don't just add flavor. They have been traditionally valued for their warming properties and their ability to stimulate blood flow. In many systems of traditional medicine, these spices are also used to help loosen mucus and ease mild respiratory congestion. Modern clinical and experimental studies provide some support for short-term relief of cold symptoms, circulation issues, and low-grade inflammatory discomfort when they are consumed in sensible amounts. Ginger's distinctive bite comes from compounds such as gingerols, which can encourage better circulation and support mobility in joints that feel sluggish after rest. Its action is gentler than many prescription anti-inflammatory medicines, and when used in modest culinary amounts, is generally easier on the liver and kidneys, both critical considerations for older adults who may already take several medications. Cinnamon works alongside it, supporting circulation in a complementary way. Although often linked to baking and sweet dishes, cinnamon also contains plant compounds that can help the body manage blood sugar and maintain responsive blood vessels, allowing nutrients and oxygen to reach muscles and joints more efficiently. For seniors, Keeping blood sugar on an even keel can make a noticeable difference in movement and energy across the day. Reduced spikes and dips help maintain steady circulation, which may ease the heavy, stiff sensation that can develop in the legs and ankles. Both spices therefore offer a two-pronged support, encouraging blood flow and helping control some of the metabolic factors that can work against mobility. Studies focusing on older adults have explored these effects in daily life. In certain trials, participants with joint stiffness who incorporated ginger over several weeks saw improvements in tasks like rising from a chair or walking short distances. Cinnamon, taken in safe dietary amounts over a similar period, was linked with reduced leg fatigue after activity. These changes weren't dramatic, but for someone gauging progress by whether a short walk to the shops feels manageable, they were significant enough to matter. Safety remains important. Ginger can, in larger doses, increase bleeding risk when taken with anticoagulants and may irritate a sensitive stomach, especially in some older adults. For that reason, it's best to start with small culinary amounts, such as fresh slices in tea or a teaspoon of grated ginger in cooking, and check with a pharmacist if you take blood-thinning medication. Cinnamon is gentler in its interactions, though people using blood sugar-lowering drugs should be mindful of additive effects. When adding cinnamon daily, choosing Ceylon cinnamon over the more common cassia variety avoids excessive exposure to coumarin, a natural compound that in large doses may affect the liver. One simple way to try them together comes from traditional kitchen practice. Grate a thumb-sized piece of fresh ginger into hot water, then add about a teaspoon of ground Ceylon cinnamon or half a cinnamon stick. Let it steep for several minutes. This example is just that, an example, not a prescription. If you tolerate it well, without stomach upset over a few days, you can continue or adjust the amounts to suit your taste. By starting small, you reduce the chance of unwanted reactions and can find a balance that feels beneficial. Preparation matters for preserving active components and making the flavors pleasant. Fresh ginger can be sliced or grated and simmered gently in water for 5 to 10 minutes to draw out its compounds without creating an overpowering bitterness. Lemon juice can lighten the flavor and add vitamin C. Cinnamon sticks can infuse a drink without leaving powdery residue, or ground cinnamon can be stirred into warm cereals, fruit compotes, or herbal teas. Incorporating these spices into regular meals is an easy way to build them into a routine without feeling like you've added another treatment to your day. These warming spices work gradually. You're unlikely to notice the same immediate effect as an over-the-counter pain reliever, but many people report that after a few weeks of steady use, whether through tea or cooking, joint stiffness seems less pronounced and movement comes a bit easier. Tracking changes in your mobility over time, rather than just in the moment, can help make the benefits clearer. Paying attention to actions that signal ease, standing without hesitation, walking across the garden without stopping, can be more telling than pain levels alone. Beyond the potential physical gains, preparing and consuming these spices can serve as a daily ritual that engages the senses. The fresh, citrusy scent of ginger and the warm aroma of cinnamon can be grounding and calming. Taking even 10 minutes to prepare a tea can act as a gentle pause in the day, allowing you to check in with how your body feels. It's not only about what these spices do inside the body, it's also about the role they can play in shaping a more mindful approach to self-care. That habit of intentional preparation can also make it easier to stick with over time. A warm drink that you look forward to can become something you naturally keep in your schedule, increasing the likelihood you'll see results. This differs from taking yet another pill, which can feel like a burden rather than a choice. For most older adults, these spices used in moderate culinary amounts carry low risk. The exceptions, blood-thinning medicines for ginger and certain blood sugar-lowering drugs for cinnamon, are important enough to mention again, as is the advantage of starting small and increasing slowly if all is well. Choosing good quality ingredients, such as fresh, firm ginger and Ceylon cinnamon from a reliable source, also helps ensure you're getting the intended effect without unnecessary additives. In the end, part of the appeal of ginger and cinnamon is their simplicity. They can slide into your diet without major changes, offer comfort on cooler days, and provide modest support for circulation, joint function, and even the body's handling of seasonal colds. For anyone balancing medications, energy levels, and mobility goals, that's a useful combination. They are not quick cures, but they can be steady allies. And while these two spices can do much to help keep the body moving, there are other roots and herbs with a different set of strengths, ones that don't just influence joints and blood flow, but also speak to memory, focus, and clear thinking as the years advance. Turmeric, brain, and mobility support in one root. Margaret had always kept a small vegetable patch behind her house. It wasn't large, just a few rows of tomatoes and peppers, some herbs, and flowers along the edges. By last summer, she was ready to give it up. Her knees complained with every bend, her hips tightened if she stood too long, and she found herself misplacing her garden shears more often. She told her daughter she might be done with gardening for good. Then, after reading about turmeric, she decided to experiment, just a teaspoon here and there in soups or stirred into warm milk at night. She kept at it, not in big doses, but daily. A couple of months later, she noticed she could kneel and weed for longer before her knees stiffened, and she felt more organized when planning her planting rows. By autumn, she had another full harvest. Turmeric is best known as a golden spice, long used in cooking and traditional medicine. The part we use is the root, rich in curcuminoids, with curcumin being the most studied. Much of the current interest comes from research linking curcumin not only to support for joint comfort, but also to aspects of cognitive function. Clinical trials have shown that curcumin can reduce arthritis-related pain in some people and may help maintain certain markers of brain health, such as attention, working memory, and balance. For older adults, gradual changes in balance or memory can be just as worrying as stiff joints. In controlled studies, older participants taking curcumin regularly performed better on some balance and reaction tests compared to those taking a placebo. They also reported feeling steadier on their feet in everyday situations, stepping off a curb, walking over gravel, or climbing stairs. The mechanism is thought to involve curcumin's role in moderating low-grade inflammation and promoting healthy circulation in both the brain and joints. When looking at turmeric's mobility benefits, the anti-inflammatory effects are a consistent finding. Joint inflammation from conditions like osteoarthritis can cause swelling and stiffness that limit movement. Curcumin doesn't numb pain the way a short-acting drug can, but by reducing certain inflammatory signals, it can help ease the daily discomfort load, making it easier to stay active. More movement, in turn, helps preserve joint flexibility, muscle strength, and stability. There are a few key points that make turmeric more effective in real-world use. One is bioavailability. Curcumin is not easily absorbed on its own. Black pepper contains piperine, a compound that can slow curcumin's breakdown and significantly improve its entry into the bloodstream. A small amount is enough, just a pinch of ground black pepper with turmeric in a recipe. Fat also helps. Olive oil, coconut milk, or dairy can aid absorption. A good rule of thumb, if you try turmeric for brain or joint support, combine it with a pinch of black pepper and a small amount of fat, such as oil or milk, to help your body use it. Turmeric's benefits also depend on general diet quality. A healthy gut microbiome, nurtured by vegetables, legumes, and whole grains, may help process curcumin more effectively. Over time, consistent intake in the right dietary conditions is what supports the subtle changes people describe, rather than a single large dose. For those considering supplements, quality varies widely. Higher quality options generally use standardized curcumin extracts in studied doses and often add piperine or other absorption aids. Some provide third-party testing results for potency and purity. Bulk turmeric powder from a spice jar can still be valuable in cooking, but its curcumin content is lower and more variable. More is not better. High-dose supplements can cause digestive upset, and in some people, loose stools or mild nausea. For most seniors, the safest starting point is to use turmeric in foods mixed into rice, eggs, soups, or stews, and see how the body responds before moving on to concentrated forms. There are also safety considerations. In supplement form, curcumin can mildly thin the blood. Anyone on anticoagulants, antiplatelet medications, or preparing for surgery should check with their clinician before starting concentrated curcumin. Depending on dosage, timing adjustments, or skipping supplements during certain periods might be advised. Culinary amounts in food are typically considered safe for most, but checking remains wise. For joint comfort, several short-term clinical trials have noted that certain curcumin formulations can improve mobility within about 8 weeks in people with osteoarthritis. The reported changes are modest but meaningful, walking longer distances before feeling discomfort, or standing up from a chair with less hesitation. These functional gains can encourage more activity, reinforcing the physical benefits over time. Turmeric folds naturally into many meals. In lentil or vegetable soups, 1 teaspoon adds color and depth. Combined with yogurt, lemon juice, and herbs, it makes a mild marinade for chicken or vegetables. In warm milk or plant-based milk with honey and a pinch of pepper, it becomes a calming evening drink. The flavor is mild enough that, with regular use, it blends easily into familiar recipes. Consistency is what makes the difference. Using turmeric sporadically won't build the steady levels of curcumin linked to benefits in studies. The changes are gradual: less swelling after daily walks, greater ease standing in the kitchen, or a steadier step on the garden path. Cognitive support, when present, comes in the same quiet way: a little more mental clarity during a task or slightly quicker recall in conversation. The practical ease is part of turmeric's appeal. It doesn't require a new shopping list or unusual ingredients. For older adults who want to support memory and mobility without adding more pills, this makes turmeric a realistic option that can ride along with daily eating habits. And for those already managing multiple medications, its gradual approach and integration into meals can reduce the sense of yet another thing to remember. As with most natural supports, turmeric's role is not to cure or reverse disease, but to assist the body in maintaining function over time. Clinical evidence suggests it may help with joint comfort and certain inflammation markers, and it shows promise for aspects of cognitive health. Taken in appropriate amounts, with the right preparation, it offers a low-risk addition to a senior-friendly health plan. The difference it makes might be something simple: keeping up with a favorite pastime, walking more comfortably, or managing household tasks with less strain. For some, that can be the deciding factor between doing and avoiding an activity. And sometimes, as Margaret found, it's enough to bring back a piece of life you thought was behind you. Staying physically comfortable is only part of the picture. Mental clarity and memory are just as central to independence and daily ease. And they, too, can benefit from simple additions that fit into everyday routines. Rosemary and green tea, the memory-boosting duo. Some simple, everyday foods can do more than just nourish the body. They can play a quiet but steady role in keeping the mind alert. 2 of the most accessible for older adults are rosemary and green tea, a pairing that supports cognitive function in different yet complementary ways. Rosemary, with its pointed green leaves and resinous aroma, has long been valued in cooking, but its benefits extend beyond the plate. When handled or lightly crushed, the aromatic oils it releases interact with receptors in the nose that signal the brain, including regions such as the hippocampus and limbic system, which are central to memory and attention. Importantly, Small clinical trials have shown that simply inhaling rosemary's scent may improve certain aspects of memory and attention in older adults. This olfactory method doesn't require ingestion, meaning there's no added demand on the liver or kidneys, an advantage for those already managing multiple medications. A brief press and sniff with a fresh or dried sprig can produce this sensory stimulation almost instantly, making it a low-effort habit with potential mental benefits. Green tea works along slower, internal lines. Instead of a quick sensory boost, it delivers polyphenol, particularly catechins, through drinking. These compounds act as antioxidants and may help protect brain cells from oxidative damage, while also supporting healthy blood flow and reducing low-grade inflammation that can interfere with neuronal signaling. Alongside catechins, green tea contains L-theanine, an amino acid that, in combination with a moderate dose of caffeine, promotes a calm but alert mental state rather than the abrupt peaks and drops often associated with coffee. Regular green tea consumption has been associated in observational studies with a lower risk of cognitive decline. Researchers point to its catechins and L-theanine as key components in supporting vascular and brain health over time. In large population studies from parts of Asia, older adults who drank several cups of green tea daily showed a noticeably lower likelihood of developing dementia over the following years compared to those who drank little or none. While these results don't establish direct prevention, the relationship persisted even after accounting for other health and lifestyle factors. That pattern, repeated across multiple independent studies, suggests green tea is a useful building block in an overall cognitive-friendly routine. When combined, rosemary and green tea offer both short-term and long-term angles on brain health. Rosemary's scent provides an immediate sensory cue to switch on certain mental processes, while green tea's bioactive compounds work in the background to support ongoing brain resilience. For seniors looking to build sustainable habits, the two can be paired seamlessly into a morning or midday ritual. One practical routine starts with heating water for a cup of green tea. While the tea steeps, a small piece of rosemary, fresh from a sunny windowsill pot or taken from a jar of dried leaves, is gently pressed between the fingertips. Taking a moment to inhale deeply engages the olfactory pathway before the first sip of tea. This sequence becomes more than just preparing a drink. It establishes a sensory and nutritional moment of care. The routine also serves as a mental anchor in the day, reinforcing consistency. For rosemary, fresh sprigs tend to offer a stronger, cleaner aroma, but dried leaves still retain the essential oils. Gently crushing them first helps release more of their active compounds. The scent is sharp and pine-like with a subtle warmth and tends to dissipate quickly, preventing it from feeling intrusive. Keeping a plant or small jar handy makes it easier to build the habit without extra steps. With green tea, brewing adjustments can reduce caffeine intensity for those who are sensitive. Steeping for 1 to 2 minutes yields a lighter, less bitter cup with milder stimulation, while brewing for around 4 minutes deepens the flavor and increases the caffeine lift. For an afternoon option, decaffeinated green tea maintains the polyphenol without affecting sleep. Cold brewing and refrigerating the tea provides a refreshing variation for warmer days. Matcha, a powdered form of green tea, is a more concentrated source of these compounds and may offer stronger polyphenol exposure. However, the practical benefit for brain health appears similar as long as intake is regular and part of an overall healthy diet. Even a few rosemary scent sessions each week can offer perceptible benefits. Some older adults notice it's easier to recall items from a shopping list or remember the details of a conversation when regularly engaging the scent. Paired with the steadier, vascular supporting effects of green tea, the combination supports both in-the-moment alertness and longer-term cognitive maintenance. Neither is a replacement for wider protective measures such as balanced nutrition, physical activity, and social connection. but they are low-cost, low-risk additions that can integrate easily into daily life. Unlike complex supplement regimens, they rely on accessible forms, culinary herbs, and a widely available beverage, making them realistic for long-term use. Safety considerations are straightforward but important. Rosemary's aroma is well tolerated and generally safe for most people. Ingesting large quantities of concentrated rosemary oil, however, should be avoided without professional guidance due to its potency. Green tea does contain caffeine and other bioactive polyphenol that can interfere with medications in some cases. For example, very high intake can affect warfarin stability in sensitive patients, so those on blood thinners should speak with their clinician before significantly increasing tea consumption. For most people, moderate daily intake, 2 to 3 cups, falls comfortably within safe limits. Small adjustments can keep the routine appealing. Adding a slice of lemon to green tea brightens the flavor and provides vitamin C, while tossing a few rosemary leaves into bread dough, roasted vegetables, or a light soup infuses meals with its familiar scent. The idea is not to turn these plants into a strict regimen, but to weave them into sensory and nutritional touchpoints across the week. The simplicity of this duo is its strength. Hand to the rosemary sprig, breath drawn in. Cup of tea on the table, steam carrying the faint scent of leaves. One works in seconds, the other over months and years. Together, they offer a steady, unfussy way to support mental performance without adding strain to medication schedules or daily planning. And once you start noticing the quiet benefits from small pleasures like these, it's easier to appreciate that not everything supportive has to feel like medicine. Sometimes the most sustainable options are the ones you enjoy. That mindset leaves the door open for other, equally enjoyable additions, ones that can care for health while still feeling like a treat. Dark chocolate, a sweet prescription for heart and mood. If there was ever a reason to feel entirely justified about a small daily indulgence, dark chocolate makes a convincing case. Not the milk variety dressed up with caramel or nougat, but the kind that's rich, slightly bitter, and at least 70 to 85% cocoa. Its flavor may be more grown-up than sweet tooth, but it brings something valuable for older adults, measurable effects on heart health, circulation, and mood. One reason it earns a place in this conversation is the way cocoa's flavonols affect blood vessels. These plant compounds encourage the artery lining, or endothelium, to produce more nitric oxide. That signaling tells the surrounding muscles to relax, allowing vessels to widen and blood to flow more freely. In an aging body, where circulation to the brain, heart, and extremities can gradually slow, this extra flexibility can be significant. Dark cocoa flavonols have been shown to improve blood flow and endothelial function within hours and in longer studies to support cardiovascular and cognitive measures. There's also a modest effect on blood pressure. Regular, moderate intake has been associated with small reductions in both systolic and diastolic readings. The changes aren't dramatic, and they don't replace medication for those who need it, but they work through improving vessel function rather than forcing rapid shifts. This makes them gentler and potentially more sustainable when fitted alongside existing treatment plans. If you have cholesterol or cardiac concerns, it's still wise to check with a clinician before making dark chocolate a daily habit. On the brain chemistry side, cocoa prompts the release of neurotransmitters such as serotonin and endorphins, which can lift mood. It also contains theobromine and a small amount of caffeine, enough to promote alertness without the edge coffee sometimes brings. For seniors, where mood and energy can be affected by physical changes, medications, or reduced social contact, that gentle combination can contribute to feeling more engaged and upbeat, especially in the middle of the day. Population studies provide a broader perspective. In one long-term study, older adults who regularly consumed modest amounts of high flavonol dark chocolate had a lower rate of cardiovascular events, including strokes, than those who rarely ate it. The pattern held when servings were moderate and consistent. It was never about finishing a whole bar daily. For most people balancing health and calorie intake, 20 to 30 grams a day of 70 to 85% cocoa offers a reasonable target. This range gives a meaningful flavanol dose, keeps added sugar on the lower side, and is easier to work into a regular diet without tipping energy balance toward weight gain. Because chocolate is calorie dense, it's worth factoring that portion into the day's intake and thinking about where it fits. Swapping it for a less nutritious snack, a biscuit at tea time, for example, can make room without adding extra calories. Eating it with a few nuts or some berries can also help it feel more filling, and pairing with protein or fat slows sugar absorption, keeping blood sugar steadier. This can be especially important for older adults managing insulin sensitivity or diabetes risk. For the best balance of flavor and benefit, cocoa percentage matters. The higher it is, the more flavanols and the less sugar. Many find 75% cocoa a good starting point, but if you've been used to milk chocolate, beginning at 70% and moving upward gradually allows the palate to adjust. Over time, the complexity of flavor can become more satisfying than sweetness alone. Processing also plays a role. Dutch processed or alkalized, cocoa is smoother but typically has fewer flavanols. Labels that mention natural cocoa or minimal processing usually mean more of the beneficial compounds remain. A little trial and error across brands can help you find one that balances taste with nutrient preservation. Nutrient-wise, dark chocolate offers more than flavanols. It contains small amounts of magnesium, copper, and iron, helping with bone integrity, energy metabolism, and oxygen transport. While no single portion provides a large percentage of daily requirements, these small contributions can add up in a varied diet, especially for those whose appetite has declined. The benefits do come with cautions. Even in modest amounts, dark chocolate contains caffeine and theobromine, which can be stimulating. If you're sensitive to either, keep intake earlier in the day to avoid disrupting sleep. Chocolate can also relax the lower esophageal sphincter, so people prone to reflux might find larger servings aggravating symptoms. In those cases, sticking to smaller portions or adjusting timing can help. Anyone taking certain heart rhythm drugs or specific antidepressants should check potential interactions with a healthcare provider before adding it regularly. If your overall health plan allows it, making dark chocolate a deliberate part of the day can improve both enjoyment and follow-through. Rather than eating it on the run, set it aside for a specific moment, perhaps in the afternoon when energy dips. Let it melt slowly rather than chewing. This not only deepens flavor, but gives more time for satiety signals to register. It transforms a snack into a pleasant ritual without adding complexity. Over time, the impact of that small daily square or two might be in subtle shifts, better stamina on walks, slightly easier stair climbing, or an improved mood on overcast days. It's not a standalone solution, but as a complement to other habits, it can play a steady role in vascular and emotional well-being. The key is consistency and keeping the serving size aligned with both nutrient goals and calorie needs, so it supports health without edging into excess. Choosing a bar with minimal added sugar, aiming for 70% or more cocoa, and limiting intake to 20 to 30 grams a day provides the sweet spot, enough to deliver flavanols and flavor while staying workable for those monitoring blood sugar, weight, or reflux. It also leaves room for other supportive foods in the diet, which together shape a broader picture of longevity and quality of life. Including an enjoyable choice like dark chocolate in a daily pattern underscores an important truth: support for heart and brain health doesn't have to feel punitive. It can be a matter of adding as well as avoiding. That said, whether it's flavanols, plant compounds, or herbal preparations, each addition still needs to sit comfortably alongside current treatments. Some foods and supplements can either amplify or counteract the effects of prescription medicines, And knowing where those lines are drawn can be as valuable as the benefits themselves. Navigating medication interactions safely. Medication interactions are the single most important safety issue when seniors add natural remedies. Always check first. The truth is, most older adults aren't starting from scratch with their health routines. Many are already on 5, 8, even 10 prescription medications each day for blood pressure, cholesterol, thyroid, heart rhythm, blood clot prevention, and often a few more to manage side effects from the first set. Each drug has its job, but together they form a delicate system where introducing even a seemingly harmless herb or food can change how that system works. Some of the most relevant, well-supported interactions for seniors are worth calling out in plain language. St. John's wort can reduce the levels of many prescription drugs, including some heart medicines, antidepressants, and drugs that prevent organ rejection. So it's one to avoid unless a clinician specifically guides you. Garlic, ginkgo, and high doses of ginger can increase bleeding risk when combined with anticoagulants like warfarin or newer blood thinners. So speak to a pharmacist before adding them daily. Green tea and other vitamin K-rich foods can affect warfarin control. What matters most here is keeping intake consistent and discussing that pattern with your prescriber. Licorice, the real root or concentrated extracts, not just flavored sweets, can raise blood pressure and interfere with diuretics or certain heart medications. So large daily amounts are best avoided unless approved by a professional. Why they matter comes down to how your body processes and responds to chemistry. Garlic supplements taken alongside warfarin don't just sit quietly. They can make your blood slower to clot, which may be helpful in some settings but dangerous in others. Green tea's vitamin K content can shift how an anticoagulant works if the amount you drink suddenly changes. St. John's wort speeds up certain liver enzymes, pushing some prescription drugs out of the bloodstream faster than intended. Even licorice can cause your body to hold on to sodium and lose potassium, which can strain the heart and kidneys if you're taking certain diuretics or blood pressure medicines. The key is to approach new additions with the same level of planning you would for a prescription change. A simple 3-step safety protocol can cut the risk dramatically. Step 1, write a single, up-to-date list of everything you take: prescriptions, over-the-counter medicines, supplements, and any herbal or natural products you use regularly. Step 2, take that list to your pharmacist or clinician before adding anything new and ask directly if there are known or likely interactions. Step 3, if you do start a new natural remedy, track how you feel, note any changes in symptoms, and pay attention to follow-up lab results. Report anything notable promptly. This isn't overcomplication. It's a practical way to know what's helping, what's neutral, and what might be interfering. Pharmacists are often the fastest, most practical resource to screen for interactions. Ask them first if you want to add a daily herb or supplement. They can check your medication profile in minutes, compare it against the known effects of the plant or food you're considering, and tell you whether it's fine to proceed, suggests a timing tweak, or to steer clear. For ongoing guidance, an herbalist who works in coordination with conventional care can also advise on safe preparations and dosing and help fine-tune your plan to avoid common pitfalls. Sometimes the solution isn't to avoid a remedy entirely, but to separate it from your medication by a few hours. That timing buffer can mean the difference between an herb blunting a drug's effect or both working as intended. For example, drinking multiple cups of green tea right alongside certain statins may reduce drug absorption, but enjoying it at a different time of day can remove most of that risk. These adjustments are easiest to make when you know about the potential conflict before you begin. Too often, people add something new without mentioning it to their healthcare provider, assuming it's harmless because it's natural. If side effects start, bruising, dizziness, changes in blood pressure, unusual lab results, their prescriber is left guessing at causes. That guesswork can lead to unnecessary tests, dosage changes, or even stopping a medication that was doing its job. By being transparent from the start, you give everyone involved the full picture, making it easier to protect what's working and fix what's not. Individual variation adds another layer. Age, health history, current conditions, and even genetics can influence how you respond to both drugs and natural products. Two people can use turmeric. One feels clear joint benefits and no side effects. The other experiences stomach discomfort within a week. Neither response is wrong, but without paying attention and recording those patterns, it's easy to miss the link. The goal isn't to create fear around herbs or natural remedies. Many have meaningful, measurable benefits, but to slot them into your plan in a way that respects the complexity of everything else you're taking. Synthetic doesn't automatically mean harmful, and plant-based doesn't automatically mean safe. Both are tools, and their real power comes from combining them without letting one compromise another. Before you make a new tea, start a supplement, or sprinkle an extra medicinal spice into your daily meals. Picture every bottle, blister pack, and jar you rely on sitting together in one place. Now ask, how will this new one coexist with the rest? A quick conversation with a pharmacist or an informed clinician can answer that upfront and save a lot of second-guessing later. By choosing carefully, checking interactions, and adjusting as needed, you build a routine where everything, natural or prescribed, works in concert. Once that routine is secure, it's easier to focus on what those remedies can help you achieve, rather than worrying about what they might undo. And some of the most satisfying changes start with noticing your body move a little more easily in everyday life, the kind of improvement you can't always measure on a chart, but that you feel every time you stand up and get going. Mobility matters. How natural remedies support movement. Staying active isn't just about comfort. It's the foundation for independence. Mobility Matters is about recognizing that movement shapes nearly every aspect of daily life. And while natural remedies can help, they work best when the body is also being trained and strengthened. Exercise and physical therapy are the single most effective non-drug ways to improve mobility and reduce pain. Complementary herbs work best when paired with movement. That combination addresses not only how the body feels in the moment, but how it performs in the years ahead. Healthy circulation is one key factor. Without it, muscles tire quickly and joints feel heavy. Warming foods and herbs that encourage vessels to open and blood to move freely can make a noticeable difference when you stand, walk, or climb stairs. Ginger fits naturally into this role. Its active compounds can help relax blood vessels, improving delivery of oxygen and nutrients to working muscles. It also aids in clearing wastes like lactic acid, which can delay the onset of fatigue and make it possible to move more before discomfort sets in. Inflammation is another piece of the puzzle. For many older adults, low-level inflammation becomes a constant presence, wearing away cartilage and leaving joints stiff before the day even begins. Turmeric, and particularly its curcumin content, has shown promise in easing that background inflammation. Less swelling in joint tissues means smoother movement, and over time, this can help preserve the range of motion needed for everyday activities without having to force the joints through resistance. Rosemary, often discussed for its role in memory support, also contributes to physical comfort. It can gently improve circulation to muscles, supporting both performance during activity and recovery afterwards. Faster recovery encourages more frequent movement, building a cycle where activity supports strength and balance, which then makes movement easier. These herbs can be combined into a single daily ritual. A mobility tea brings their effects together. Simmer a few thin slices of fresh ginger in water for 10 minutes. Add half a teaspoon of ground turmeric and let it warm gently for another 5 minutes. Then finish with a small sprig of rosemary for a few minutes before straining. A pinch of black pepper helps the body absorb curcumin more effectively. This tea supports circulation, moderates inflammation, and offers a subtle lift to alertness. Making such a tea part of the day makes it easier to observe its effects. Some people prefer a mid-morning cup to loosen joints for a walk or light exercise. Others take it later in the day to counter stiffness that tends to set in by evening. Adjusting steep times or herb amounts can fine-tune the flavor. Swapping an existing cup of tea or coffee for this mix keeps the habit practical. That warm-up effect has obvious applications for everyday challenges like stairs. Climbing demands strength, coordination, and joint comfort. While no herb can turn back the clock on muscle aging, improved circulation and reduced stiffness can make each step feel less taxing. Over time, that can reduce the tendency to avoid stairs altogether, which is often the first sign of declining mobility. Balance and coordination also benefit from this approach. Stable footing depends not just on muscle strength, but on how quickly the brain and muscles communicate. Circulation directly supports that communication, and reducing inflammation throughout the body can preserve the responsiveness needed to adjust to uneven surfaces or changes in speed. Having more confident, fluid movement reduces cautious, halting steps that can increase the risk of stumbles. Natural supports are most effective when paired with purposeful activity. Two senior-appropriate approaches from clinical guidance stand out. First, low-impact forms of exercise, such as water aerobics, regular walking, or Tai Chi, can build strength and balance without stressing vulnerable joints. Second, working with a physical or occupational therapist can address specific gait issues, joint mechanics, or weaknesses that limit mobility. Either option should be discussed with a clinician or PT before starting to ensure it fits with existing health conditions and goals. Linking these activities with supportive herbs creates a feedback loop. Research shows that older adults who combine regular physical activity with herbs that support circulation and reduce inflammation report gradual but measurable improvements, faster walking speeds, better balance scores, and quicker transitions from sitting to standing. Natural remedies can provide the extra comfort or stamina to make these activities possible, while the activities themselves build the strength and flexibility that sustain mobility. Muscle responds to increased activity at any age, even modest increases. An extra trip up the stairs, a longer walk, or a few more minutes standing while cooking strengthen the structures that keep joints stable and maintain postural support. When herbs make this extra movement less uncomfortable, the gains add up. Stronger muscles protect joints, stabilize balance, and help keep daily movements smooth. It's also important to consider the role of conventional pain relief and its limitations. Many seniors rely on nonsteroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs, for joint discomfort, but long-term use in older adults carries risks, including gastrointestinal bleeding, kidney strain, and worsening heart failure. Some people explore natural supports as a way to reduce NSAID use, but any medication changes should be supervised by a healthcare provider to ensure pain and inflammation remain well controlled. Herbs and remedies should fit into life as easily as possible. Preparing a mobility tea doesn't demand new skills or equipment. It's a small change to an existing routine that can be scaled to taste and tolerance. For those already managing multiple conditions or medications, starting with smaller amounts and noting any changes in comfort or energy can help determine whether it's worth making regular. Mobility is not about competing in sport. It's about having the confidence to leave the house, keep social commitments, manage errands, and navigate familiar spaces without hesitation or strain. Bringing comfortable movement back into reach often involves several adjustments. A daily walk, a handful of targeted exercises, small diet changes, and perhaps a herbal tea taken with intention. Over a season, the combined effect is often greater than the sum of its parts. A useful starting point for anyone dealing with mobility limits is to raise the topic at the next medical appointment. Asking for a physical therapy referral provides professional guidance on exercises and strategies tailored to individual needs. At the same time, a 10 to 14-day trial of a ginger and turmeric-based tea can provide gentle circulation and inflammation support as that gentler strength work begins, provided the combination is cleared by the clinician. This creates a situation where the remedy is not a standalone hope but a complement to targeted, supervised movement. And as strength and comfort build, other aspects of health can benefit in parallel. Some of the same foods and herbs that support circulation and physical steadiness also play a part in another area that quietly shapes daily life: the ability to see clearly and respond to the world around you. Seeing clearly, eye health and natural support. You're settling into your chair for a favorite program, tea in hand, when a few minutes in you realize you're leaning forward and narrowing your eyes at the subtitles. The dialogue is in English, but in the murky lighting of the scene, the small text strains your focus. It's not that you can't see, it's that clarity isn't as reliable in every setting as it once was. For many older adults, these quiet changes in how the eyes perform are an early sign that the visual system could use extra support. One common reason vision changes with age is oxidative stress. The light-sensitive cells in the retina work under constant exposure to both light and oxygen, producing reactive oxygen species as a byproduct of their activity. Without enough antioxidant protection, this oxidative load gradually harms the microscopic structures that gather and transmit visual signals. Certain everyday foods contain compounds that help absorb, neutralize, or defend against these stressors, particularly those high in plant-based antioxidants and circulation-supporting elements. Dark leafy greens, rosemary, and dark chocolate are three foods with overlapping benefits for eye health. Their active compounds work through different mechanisms, some directly protecting retinal cells, others improving blood vessel performance, but together they can help maintain healthy vision in later years. Spinach, kale, and other leafy greens stand out for their lutein and zeaxanthin content. These macular pigments concentrate in the retina, especially in the macula, the part responsible for sharp central vision. They filter high-energy blue light and reduce free radical activity, acting like internal sunglasses. Observational studies link higher intake of lutein and zeaxanthin with a lower risk of age-related macular degeneration, one of the leading causes of central vision loss in older adults. Aim to include a daily serving of dark leafy greens and prepare them with a little healthy fat. Olive oil or eggs are good options to help your body absorb these protective pigments effectively. Rosemary supports the eyes along another path. Antioxidants such as rosmarinic acid and carnosic acid have been studied for their ability to defend nerve tissue from oxidative damage and to improve microcirculation. The retina is one of the most metabolically active tissues in the body, with a constant need for oxygen and nutrients. Even small improvements in blood flow to its fine capillaries can support visual performance, particularly in low-light settings. Reducing inflammation in these vessels also helps maintain steady nutrient delivery to the optic nerve. Dark chocolate, while better known for its cardiovascular and mood effects, offers cocoa flavonols that improve vessel flexibility throughout the body, including in ocular tissue. This helps retina-supporting blood vessels dilate more easily and deliver oxygen under visually demanding conditions. In practical terms, this can benefit night vision and contrast sensitivity, both of which tend to decline gradually with age. Combining these foods creates a practical support system for the eyes: antioxidants to slow oxidative wear, compounds to improve blood flow, and anti-inflammatory effects to keep ocular microcirculation effective. The advantage is that each is widely available and easy to prepare as part of normal meals rather than requiring special supplements. One simple plan: start the day with scrambled eggs or an omelet that includes a handful of chopped spinach or kale, giving both lutein/zeaxanthin and the dietary fat needed to absorb them. Add rosemary to a midday dish, roasted vegetables, fish, or legumes, either fresh or dried. In the evening, Take 20 to 30 grams of 75% or darker chocolate as a dessert replacement, perhaps alongside berries or citrus slices for a dose of vitamin C to further assist vessel health. Food-based approaches bring nutrients in their natural context, often accompanied by supportive compounds that improve their stability and effect. Kale, for example, pairs lutein and zeaxanthin with beta-carotene, vitamin K, and trace minerals. Rosemary's full chemical spectrum protects through multiple antioxidant pathways, and cocoa's flavonols come with magnesium and copper, which also contribute to overall cellular function. Evidence supports these subtle shifts. In one controlled trial, older adults who increased intake of antioxidant-rich greens, rosemary, and cocoa showed gradual improvements in night vision and contrast handling. They reported less strain in dim restaurants or while driving after dark and scored better on visual function tests after several months. The gains were modest but functionally useful: easier reading in low light, better recognition of visual details, and reduced fatigue after extended focusing. Protecting vision also means protecting independence in daily routines. The ability to read small print menus, follow street signs in varied light, or navigate safely at night underpins confidence in movement and decision-making. Supporting macular pigments, circulation, and retinal resilience can help preserve these abilities longer. It's worth remembering these foods benefit more than the eyes. The same flavonols, carotenoids, and antioxidant compounds that support vision also aid heart health, brain function, and general inflammation control. A change made for one purpose often pays off in other systems, as the same biological processes underpin multiple aspects of health. To keep these changes sustainable, make them varied. Rotate greens through the week: kale, spinach, collard greens, so flavors and textures stay interesting. Try rosemary in different forms to see where you prefer fresh versus dried. Explore different brands and percentages of dark chocolate until you find one that's enjoyable and fits your sugar and calorie needs. The greater the enjoyment, the easier it is to maintain consistency. A few precautions matter. If you take warfarin, maintain a steady intake of dark leafy greens and talk to your clinician before making large changes in quantity, as the vitamin K they contain can alter dosing needs. Those sensitive to caffeine should take dark chocolate earlier in the day to avoid sleep disruption. Rosemary is safe in culinary amounts, but should be used with guidance if considering concentrated extracts alongside certain medications. For most older adults, gradual inclusion and steady intake are both safe and practical. Adding a serving of greens a few times a week and building toward daily use, seasoning regularly with rosemary, replacing a high-sugar dessert with a small piece of dark chocolate. These small steps, when repeated, allow protective compounds to accumulate in the retina and help preserve vessel function for the long term. If you notice signs such as worsening night vision, new floaters, or any sudden change in how you see, contact an eye specialist promptly. Dietary patterns can help support long-term eye health, but cannot replace timely medical assessment when symptoms change quickly. By using kitchen ingredients to back up the body's own defenses, it's possible to create steady, low-maintenance support for vision as the years go on. Once habits like these are in place, many people begin to wonder how to fit them alongside the treatments and prescriptions they already use, and whether there's a structured way to balance both without risking what's already working, making the transition from conventional to natural safely. For many older adults, the thought of changing a long-standing treatment routine raises a real concern. What if I adjust something and my health takes a step backwards? It's a reasonable worry. Prescriptions are often part of a carefully maintained balance built over years, keeping blood pressure stable, easing pain to a livable level, and managing chronic issues. Introducing natural supports should never mean discarding what already works. The safer approach is to see it as gradual integration, not sudden replacement. Never stop or reduce prescribed medications without a clinician-supervised plan. Some drugs must be tapered slowly to avoid harm. Abrupt withdrawal can cause dangerous effects, sudden changes in heart rate or blood pressure, flare UPS of symptoms, or withdrawal reactions that may require urgent care. The goal with natural remedies is to add them alongside existing treatments in a way that lets you and your healthcare providers monitor both safety and effect, then discuss whether any prescription changes are appropriate. A simple, 4-step protocol can keep the process safe and traceable. Step 1. Consult your prescribing clinician and your pharmacist before adding any new herb, food, or supplement. Bring a full list of what you currently take, including over-the-counter medicines, vitamins, and any herbal products. Step 2. Add only one new natural change at a time, starting with a low initial dose, for example, a culinary portion of turmeric in food or a mild tea infusion, and keep it consistent for 2 to 4 weeks. This gives a clear window to see if it's making a difference without confusion from multiple changes. Step 3. Keep a simple daily log of your current medications, the natural remedy added, start date, and any changes in symptoms or side effects. Step 4. If a prescription reduction is planned, have the clinician write a monitored taper schedule and arrange any needed lab tests or follow-up visits to track your response. Your pharmacist can be a powerful resource in this process. Ask them to run an herb-drug interaction screen and help define timing strategies, such as whether to stagger doses of medicines and herbs or take them with food. They can also suggest specific monitoring, like checking blood pressure more often during the first weeks of a new addition, so any unwanted change is caught early. Tracking your plan doesn't require anything complicated. Keep a small notepad or a phone note titled My Medicines Plus Naturals, listing each item, the date you started it, and any changes you've noticed. Bring it to every appointment. This habit means that important details, like when you began adding ginger tea or the week you adjusted a painkiller dose, are always available to review with your clinician or pharmacist. If your focus is on something like turmeric for joint comfort, begin with adding it to your meals rather than jumping straight to concentrated supplements. This smaller step reduces the risk of digestive upset and lets you identify whether it's offering any benefit before considering a higher dose. If after a couple of weeks there's noticeable relief without unwanted effects, you can decide with professional guidance whether to continue, adjust, or add another supportive remedy. Documenting each change also makes it easier to spot trends. If mobility improves during the 3 weeks after starting ginger tea, but you also notice increased bruising, you have a clearer basis to ask whether it might be interacting with a blood thinner. If new sleep improvements occur alongside adding a nightly herbal tea, you can decide whether to maintain that habit and see if other symptoms like morning stiffness also change. Without a record, these connections are too easy to miss. Making changes gradually also builds a sense of security. If an addition isn't helpful or becomes hard to maintain, it can be stopped without disrupting the rest of your regimen. By moving one step at a time, you give yourself a stable baseline. This way, you can credit improvements or address problems with confidence about their cause. In some cases, small consistent steps lead to bigger changes over time. Someone using anti-inflammatory herbs alongside gentle exercise might find that their pain is manageable with a lower dose of prescribed medication. Another person focusing on leafy greens and circulation-supporting tea for eye health might also see sustained blood pressure improvements. These overlapping benefits become easier to recognize when they are introduced slowly and monitored closely. It's important to remember that, for many people, prescriptions remain essential for controlling certain conditions. The point is not to remove support, but to complement it. Even modest adjustments, a reduced dosage, or one fewer pill in the daily count can lessen the chance of side effects and lower the long-term strain on the body. Sometimes the goals shift as the process unfolds. You may start intending to reduce one medication, but discover that another area of health improves first, opening different opportunities to adjust your plan. This flexibility is part of what makes gradual integration valuable. Patience is essential. Improvements from natural supports often develop over weeks rather than days, and reductions in prescriptions need their own careful timelines. By sticking to the consult, introduce, track, adjust structure, you create a pathway that maintains safety while allowing space for personalization. Taking this deliberate approach shifts the focus from fear of losing control to maintaining steady, informed direction. Each addition is tested in real life, supported by professional oversight, and adjusted as needed. Over time, you may find a combination of measured prescription doses and regular natural supports that works better than either approach alone. If you are thinking about starting, set up a first step for this week. Choose one natural remedy to discuss with your healthcare provider, ask your pharmacist about timing and interactions, and prepare your My Medicines Plus Naturals log before you make the change. That preparation turns an idea into an actionable plan. By treating natural remedies as structured parts of your healthcare, with the same caution, record keeping, and oversight as prescriptions, you protect what is working while carefully testing what might work even better. The balance you build this way is not a gamble. It's a controlled adjustment, made safer by preparation, patience, and full communication with those responsible for your care. And with that structure in place, the conversation shifts from whether natural options have a place to how they can be used most effectively for your individual needs. That's when the focus moves forward toward the practical steps that let you manage your health for both safety now and better function in the years to come. Taking control of your health means working with your medical care, not against it. The aim is to support your body, ease unnecessary strain, and stay aligned with your long-term goals. Small, consistent steps are safer and more effective than sudden overhauls. This week, pick one culinary change, a cup of ginger cinnamon tea or a daily serving of leafy greens, and mention it at your next medication review. If you found this useful, leave a comment with the one natural thing you'll ask your pharmacist about, and hit subscribe for more practical, evidence-minded ideas like this. And remember, always check with your clinician or pharmacist before adding a new herb or supplement. That one step protects your health and your independence.